If you've been around the gold and silver market for any amount of time, you've heard about the inevitable, eventual explosion in the price of gold and silver. But is it actually happening right now? Is the world experiencing a tectonic shift that will lead to a vast revaluation? Let's not say pricing, because that implies fiat currency. Let's say revaluation of the precious metals, silver, gold, platinum, palladium. Let's dig into that right now. You know, the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association, and the Comex here in the United States have controlled the price of gold and silver for decades. There's much been written and investigation done into how they've manipulated the markets, but nonetheless, they've controlled the silver and gold and other precious metal markets for decades. We know this, and I'm not going to get into fancy details with you, but the vaults, right, that the LBMA has and the Comex, where they store the metal that backs up all the unicorn fart dust, paper contract derivative, whatever you want to call it, silver and gold that's traded, those vaults that back everything up, the amount of metals in those vaults has been falling drastically, precipitously, whatever fancy word you choose to use to describe it. The amount of metal in the vaults at the LBMA, at the Comex, is way, way down. Now, what the heck does that have to do with a tectonic shift in how gold and silver are valued? It's real easy. The LBMA and the Comex, the West, were able to control the metals because they controlled the world from a military perspective and from a financial perspective. The US dollar ruled the world. But right now, right beneath our very feet, right in front of our noses, that situation is changing. We are moving from a unipolar world, meaning one power, to a world that's bifurcated or multipolar, whatever fancy word you want to use to describe it. And that means that that stranglehold that the West had on the price of those precious metals, it's waning. And a lot of that metal, yeah, you guessed it. Guess where it's heading? It's heading to the other pole, right? It's heading to the east because they are developing their own systems, their own financial infrastructure to trade amongst themselves, to move away from the dollar, and they're putting a high level of priority on real assets, on silver, on gold. So do you think maybe things could be different this time? That not the price of silver and gold, because price is just what you pay with paper money, but the value of gold. Don't forget, Warren Buffett himself said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. That the value of the precious metals could go up much in the coming months, quarters, and years, because the West doesn't have that stranglehold on the gold and silver market through the Comex and the LBMA. In the past, if inventories went down, well, they could kind of manage the situation because they controlled so much of the power structure behind everything that goes on in the world. But now we have a completely different power structure emerging, and the LBMA and the Comex, yeah, they're still powerful, no doubt about it, but not as powerful as in the past. I'm always honored when you, yes, you decide to join me here in the basement. We like to talk about these things: gold, silver, oil, world events, dig a little deeper. Most people don't do that. We are part of an elite crowd. We are away from the herd, looking out into the future. And hey, it's tough to find other people that like to do that. So thank you for being here. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Now let's get back to the video. And here's a couple interesting points which lend just a little credibility to what I just said. The LBMA recently had a webinar where they addressed the difference between the paper, yes, that would be unicorn fart dust derivative, whatever you want to call it, metal price, and the real physical price. The LBMA themselves are addressing this. Professional traders, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, they're getting scared. People are pulling, this is important to remember, people are taking delivery of the metals off these big exchanges, off the Comex, off the LBMA. That is a new trend. They're saying, we just don't want to trade the unicorn fart dust. No, when the fart dust comes due, we want it. We want the real metal. And that's what's draining these vaults. And again, this is in an environment where there's a whole other market being developed in the East that's going to put more value on those metals. And maybe, do you think maybe, just maybe, that's why the smart money, the big money, is taking delivery of the metals right now off the Comex and the LBMA? The paper market smoke and mirror game could be coming to an end. And now I don't have any proof of the next point I want to share with you, but I've heard it said that big players who've been taking delivery off the LBMA and the Comex have been kind of redlined or blacklisted and warned. We don't want you doing that. That's not good. Interesting things are developing in the silver and gold market. And the leverage on paper silver is approaching 500 to 1. Think about if gold alone, let's shift over to gold for a second. In this recent Zoltan Pulsar Credit Suisse article that talked about how the Russians could start selling their oil directly for gold, that could double the price of gold. Think about what that would do to the paper silver market that's at 500 to 1 leverage. Things could get explosive, things could get dramatic, and we love drama very quickly. And don't you forget, the oil market, it is massive. It is the most highly traded commodity on the face of the earth. And both the oil and the gold markets, they are worldwide markets, despite if the West wants to think they can strangle it and control it, which they've done a pretty good job of over the last decades. As the world changes, as the world bifurcates, those massive markets, they're worldwide. Gold is valuable everywhere. Silver is valuable everywhere. We can't forget about our old friend silver. And oil is valuable everywhere. And as the world splits, how does the West think they're going to continue to control all of it? What do you think? I don't think they are. And I think that will result in a revaluation of things like gold, oil, silver for that matter. And I want to tell you one more time, don't forget, it's not going to take a lot for this to potentially blow up, right? There's so much leverage in the paper silver, paper gold, unicorn fart dust, whatever you want to call it, that a big move with, let's say, oil as a revaluation against gold and therefore silver as well, it's not going to take a huge move for the whole thing to kind of have a, again, major dramatic move. And I hear, and I'll emphasize here, that we're even seeing more and more oil being purchased, at least partially, with gold. People are greedy throughout the world, and the world universally wants oil. If they can get a good discount on oil from, let's say, the Russians, and they have to pay for part of it with gold, you're darn tootin', they're going to find a way to get their hands on some gold to pay for that oil. And maybe that explains why there's been so much gold moving from the West to the East. Maybe that explains why the Comex and the LBMA inventories continue to go down. One thing for sure, it's going to be super interesting to see how the world changes, how this all plays out. I will be here for you. Yes, you, through it all. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Be well.
Way down low. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell.